going to be a tasty one. France versus Greece. I think we all expect France to play really aggressively coming into this. That's how they've played this tournament so far. But Greece, as you've already mentioned, Gatlo, are a pretty strong team. So they do have some sight to be able to get out of there. Let's have a look at these team graphics and see who's on these teams. Here we go. As we load this one up, this is going to be France. So, of course, huge names in there. I mean, they are the defending champions. We have Sazuro. I am not going to be able to pronounce that second one at all. But we Reizu, okay, and we have Zero, Utah, everybody knows, Legum, and Nacho's Levo. The kind of team where if you play around a couple of those players, Nacho's being one of them, you can be a dominant team, and that's something that fans do well.
Yeah, something that surprised me was that Saudi wasn't part of Team France. There's so many great France players. It just shows that France is just such a dominant region with so many good players to pick and choose from. So definitely something Tozar was keeping in mind when he was choosing the players. But however, we have Greece, Kopiani, Parmariani, Todoroki, who busted, Emmanuel. I was talking about this earlier as well. Todoroki is a player that always plays ladder. He plays so much ladder, like 1K games per season. It's just crazy how much grinds he has. You can also see the EV evolutions on his profile card. And shoutouts to Hoopastad as well. I think he's a very great support player. But this time around, he plays defender for Team Greece. But this team looks very strong as well. So I'm definitely hoping to see how the games are going to turn out. Because every time I watch a Unity European Cup game, it feels like both teams are fighting against each other. Both teams trying to represent the country and represent, um, yeah, just basically how strong they are.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I mean, France have just been dominant from the get go. Italy are really wanting to get that crown back, as we can see, but they're coming up against these other teams that are fighting so well against them, Greece being one of them. So, as we head into this draft right now, let's see what they decide to ban out. Obviously, they're aware of the players they're coming up against. Will we get some direct bans, or will they just go for the kind of ones they don't want to be dealing with? Hooper being the first ban so far.
Yeah, targeting Sazuro. Sazuro is a very great support player. I think Team Squeeze strategy is just banning out the double support and maybe potentially picking the Blizzy. The Umbreon ban is a little bit weird for me because if you pick Umbreon, it's like it works like a support, right? But then, like if they pick Blizzy, there's not really a lot of supports left. So you have like Comfy and Clefable, and Comfy is probably one of the best supports as well in the game, paired out with like a very great carry player. And like we talked about, Team France has a lot of carry players in their team. So like in this roster we have I think Utah, Nachos, and Mego, and then Rezo on the attacker role. So I'm definitely looking forward to see how they gonna draft around it because it might be also a potential ho support.
Yeah, and then picking up the Miraidon as well. We've had conversations about how ridiculous that Mon currently is in the meta. Probably one of the XEX Mons that still feels that strong. So I feel like the Charge Beam is just ridiculously good range. And of course, the Hydro Rift is difficult for them to catch. But I do like the lock-in of the Blastoise and that Blaziken in return. They've got some really good secure with the Blaziken there. But of course, the Blastoise still does a solid amount of CC, especially with that Hydro Typhoon that comes out.
This is gonna be a potential Gengar game. I have the spooky season right now, and we're gonna pivot to Metagross. Something I'm noticing from Europeans, there's not a lot of Zacian players. Like I shout out every time. Try to practice the Zacian before the UCS starts, because if you're a great Zacian player, you can just change the game. So like Zacian not being picked in this draft, just kind of strange for me, because it actually works well into Metagross. It is decent into Miraidon. Um, so yeah, kind of confused about Zacian it being picked, but again, not a lot of people play Zacian and don't feel most comfortable on it.
I'm with you though, Gatlu. I feel like Zacian is 100% that kind of mon that can change games. So it is quite surprising that it's not something used that much by these teams. But Todoroki locking in that Glaceon, I feel like is the kind of mon at the moment that is slightly underrated in the sense that it still does pretty good at kiting and it can still rip quite a bit, especially when you're coming up against those tanky sort of mons. You've got the Ho-Oh there, you've got that Metagross. So Todoroki is really going to have to try and concentrate on making sure that they can kite the things that are coming at them. And I still feel like Glaceon's capable of doing
Tano, do you see what I'm seeing on the right side? They have 5
that.
stacking items. 5 of them. All
They
of them are stacking.
do.
So I'm looking forward
Wow.
to see if they're gonna get the stacks because this is a very, very greedy composition with stacking as well. So
Ah,
Zoroark is probably gonna try to dominate the early game. Like you know that Zoroark is like the type of Pokemon that if you manage to get one kill, you can just get stacks on bot lane side, you can get stacks on top lane side. So I'm
yeah.
definitely looking forward to see if they get the stacks. Because having like 6 stacks, I mean, yeah, 5 stacks in a team composition, it's kind of greedy.
It's greedy and risky, right? Yeah, I feel like it's one of those where you really do need to find a way to snowball the lanes that you're in so that you can capitalize on at least 3 of you getting those stats. It's interesting. It is interesting, Gatling. But as we head into this game, let's see what they do with just that. Of course, we do have the Zorak and that Comfey, so it's really going to be important for them to head down into that lane after that evolution as soon as possible to put some pressure onto the side of Greece.
Some side note as well that the Glacier was sharing the bot lane farm to get earlier on the jungle. So basically he was sharing the bot lane, now taking the Xatu and the red buff, and potentially ganking towards top lane side. On the right side, Miradon is getting the secure on the DD, making sure that bot lane is winning. Miradon is one of the best secures in the game, and the bot lane looks very scary compared to the Turbo and the toys. So they have to manage to like water gun the farm away from them and then secure. However, Glacier is getting towards top lane side. Looks like nobody's going towards bot lane. I mean towards the blue buff, and Zoroark is just clearing his jungle fully. Metagross managing to secure the farm as well, and it looks like just like a pretty standard early game.
Yeah, and I feel like Zorak pushing into this bottom lane is going to be much more beneficial for France because, of course, a Ho-Ho and a Miraidon is already very strong in that lane. As you've already mentioned, Gatlu, they're going to get that 14 points in there, and they're going to continue to try and get stats in where they can. But look at how squishy these Mons are. They need to be careful to not get caught out, but they just know how weak these Mons in this lane are. We see the Glaceon coming on down. Are they going to be able to pick up the Zorak there, though? They're getting pretty weak, but they do manage to get on out of there. Was that a focus band or some sort of healing they managed to grab? And they're going to go back to get some extra healing for themselves, but that was very close for France.
Yeah, very, very close. The kill was actually very important because you get so much kills, but the focus point activated and managed to save the Zoroark. I like that the top lane is winning. When I look at the matchups, I always want to see if the stronger matchup is winning. Obviously, Blaziken is very strong with level 5, and Metagross is not really the best top lane paired with the Comfy. So when you play like Metagross, you want to have like a Eldegoss or a Hooper that supports the Metagross. So top lane is winning, but however, even though top lane is winning, the bot lane is winning extremely hard. We still have a Squirtle, so it's gonna be pretty rough for them in the beginning. Looks like Zoroark is gonna go towards middle, trying to combo the Glaceon and just securing almost every farm.
Going to be really important for that Glaceon to avoid those dashes from that Zorak, but we're going to see that Blissey sent back to the Pokemon Center there. We have 53 points in for France, meaning they've probably got quite a few stacks on their Mons. We know all of them are stacking at the moment. Are they going to go for a push onto this pad? You've got the Glaceon there with all of the spears up ready to go, and it seems like Zorak has decided to go put some pressure onto that Squirtle in the jungle. If you can stop that Squirtle from getting that evolution, it is going to be huge for France, and they do just that right now.
Yeah, very great map awareness from the Zoroark player. Thinking about invading, like seeing the angle of invading and just stopping the blasters from evolving. There's like a common thing that is happening in the competitive scene where you just break the bottom goal zone without any overcap. In Europe, currently we are calling it the Japanese overcap, where we just break top and side instantly to secure the bottom objective. But also playing for the second objective is gonna be pretty hard for the right side team, left side team, because they don't have a pet.
Yeah, it's buying that space for you, isn't it, down in that bottom lane. We see the Lecky getting ripped here. Of course, the Blaziken is there. The Reggie's still getting grabbed by the Miraidon. Blaziken does manage to lock in that Lecky. Was getting close, though. The Zorak is dived straight into the back of the Greece side here. They may be pushed out down to this flux zone. They're probably going to go down here with them locking in. Is the Kumpe going to hop onto the Ho-Ho? Yes. Are they going to get 2 of them, though? I think this may be a bit too much of a push for France. They put the X-Speed and they dive in. Again, there comes the Miraidon Meteors, and that might be enough to buy the space that they need, buddy. The Blaziken has gone down. A huge offense coming out from France, but the defense from Greece is going to be enough just now, and they kind of want to keep pushing onto this pad. They've made the decision to back up. That was really close. A good effort from Greece to defend that pad.
Yeah, very good effort from Greece. I really liked how the Milano was moving after getting Isaac speared, because he knew that if he doesn't go next to the defender, he's just gonna fall. And how managing to tank the Isaac splash made the Milano be surviving the game. Something about Zoroark is as well, if you win the early game, you always get excited about something, right? So as you can see, I call this like the Zoroark syndrome, where
Yeah.
basically it's with the speedsters a lot, where if you have a level lead, you're starting to win, which is not really beneficial for Zoroark. Zoroark is the type of Pokemon that likes to punish the early game by being a strong early game character, and then holding the mid lane mid game to late game. But as you can see, the levels are getting closer and closer now. However, the Zoroark is still level 11, but he have 2 shutdowns.
That's it, though, isn't it? When you're inting, when you're the highest level in the game, you are giving away quite a bit of XP. And it is definitely the syndrome that happens when you're feeling so strong on that mon, especially when you have a Comfey with you as well, right, Gatlu? Because you feel invincible when you can
Yeah.
get off those combos and have that Comfey with you. But it's kind of like a false sense of security in that way.
And like something I was mentioning again, like because the bot lane goes on was broken, Team Greece just decides to play for top inside. They think they can't play for bot lane, which is kind of strange, right? Because if we think about our compositions, we are much better at team fighting than them. But as you can see, the Midano Metagross just combining the ultimates together, trapping the other and putting the meteors on the other one, it's just very strong. Even though the Zoroark just died again without really achieving anything, the Midano is just very powerful into their composition.
Yeah, and it's interesting they've gone for the Electro Drift to do just that. The slow beam onto that Zoroark was fantastic coming out of the Slowbro player there, but if they can manage to get back into this fight, because they haven't done anything with everything that's gone on, of course that Lecky still hasn't been grabbed yet, and they're just continuing to defend the pad of Greece, and there we go, France have managed to rip that Lecky, so they keep the pressure on. The Zoroark's popping their Unite move, they've got a lot of damage into the backline, that Lecky's going to go in, they can now score points into this pad, they break it even though, 20 points across the board, but look at the score. We have 20 to 178. We have a Metagross putting in a lot of damage onto that Blaziken. They've got the overheat kit though. They do take down the Blastoise, but the Metagross gets taken down in return, and Ho-Ho brings them back with the revival. They want to continue putting the pressure onto this pad, even though the springboard is here, Gatlu. They've managed to take out the Blaziken, but they have to retreat. They know this Blazion's here. They can get that kite on. The Kumpe hops off. They're going to try and take some of that damage, and they do manage to keep that Zoroark alive.
While the Zoroark is distracting the enemies, the Midano is starting the bottom objective to get the Registeer. Zoroark keep trying to get the pressure on. There's something about Comfy is just very satisfying as well, right? Because you can run out of the of your carry and then block the Isaac spears from dealing damage to the enemies, because you're getting in, like you have like an invincibility frame when you jump out of someone. So this is something like I like to see when a Comfy plays with him. And Grassnode is just a very nice combination with the Zoroark. Zoroark Comfy has been one of the most popular duo queue like months so far. And now that Zoroark is getting above, Zoroark and Comfys are coming back to the competitive scene.
Yeah, and I do like, as you mentioned, the Zoroark is just causing chaos for Greece. They're spending so much time trying to take out that Zoroark that the Miraidon's just been able to go grab that objective, and France can do whatever they want across the field here. They've managed to pick up 2 more KOs on that Zoroark, and the Metagross is fighting this Blaziken until the end of time. It's crazy how well they've managed to distract Greece in this situation, and it's just given France even more of an advantage on this map.
Yeah, throughout the entire game, Team France was just dominated over and over. Like you mentioned, Team France is such an aggressive team, and it just shows in this game like how aggressive they are. They are at 2 minutes in the enemy side. I feel like the Zoroark should have get punished by the slow bro, just using the slow beam and killing the Zoroark, because no one is doing the objective as well. And while I'm saying that, the Zoroark might fall here. All of them are going into him, but even if the Zoroark is falling, we still have a Ho to resurrect him. But Team Greece looks very good right now. Trying to chase the Ho as well, getting the focus band. And now they probably should try to flip the objective, but while they are trying to do that, the Milano is just dropping meteors after meteors and doing so much damage with the Registeel as well. It's not looking good.
No, there was an advantage that Greece had there, and I'm with you. I think they probably should have gone for the rip while that Zorak isn't there. But when you have that face of Ho-Ho and Metagross, it's really tough for you to push through. We have a Blastoise and Blissey still alive. Here comes the Slowbro, but of course Zorak is back into this fight as well, chat. This Blastoise isn't going to do enough against the might that is Metagross. We have a rip onto this Green Dragon right now, but France are there with the secure. They're there with the damage. The Slow
Oh
Beam
my
is there,
god.
and it's the Slowbro that manages to lock in the Rayquaza. They take down the Miraidon as well. That's a good lock-in for Greece, but look at the scores. They need to get some points in. They no longer have any shields. We see the revival onto the Miraidon, and I don't think they're going to be able to score any points here, Gatlu.
Yeah, they're definitely getting a little bit too excited because you still have a shield, right? So you can wait for your Blissey Unite move to come back. But we are losing all of our shields. The Zoroark is pressuring, the Grass Knot is hitting, and Team Greece is losing the first game. I don't think they are able to push in time. However, if the Zoroark falls, there might be a chance. The Metagross is also going way too aggressive. But something you wanna like note down as well is when you hit the um, what's it called, Zen Headbutt, you are getting damage reduction from the Zen Headbutt Plus. So this is the reason why this Metagross just feels very invincible. The Zen Headbutt build is kind of strange because it was also being played at the World Championship, right? It was being played
Yeah.
at the World Championship, and I think that the team that played that build was Kekalog against LG, and they managed to secure the win against LG, and that's why LG wasn't making it out of groups. Just being played in Europe as well. It's a very strong build. It's just a bit risky because if you don't hit it, you don't get damage reduction, and then you might fall.
I mean, it says it all when France, they don't get the Rayquaza, but it doesn't matter if you can rip those shields, and that's exactly what they did. It meant that they could continue with the lock-in. They're going to take game one here, chat, and they've played so fantastically well. It is, as we've mentioned so many times, with teams like France and Italy, Gatlu, it is the constant aggression that they put. We saw that Zorak spending most of that game up at that T2 pad on the side of Greece or through the jungle. They spent the entire of that game, just causing chaos for Greece. And it's so difficult for you to come back from that because you put so many resources in trying to take out that one Mon that has the Comfey on it that it just means the rest of France can do whatever they want on that map.
Yeah, although the Zoroark got the MVP in this match, I feel like the MVP for me in this game was the Miraidon. And because every time Team Greece looked actually very good and the Zoroark died a lot and gave comeback XP, the Miraidon was just shutting down every single push. They did manage to protect the top like go zone, but they also tried to push the enemy go zone, and the Miraidon just dropping meteors after meteors, dealing so much damage. It was crazy amount of damage. And because the Team Greece keep looking at Zoroark, they never really paid attention to the Miraidon.
Yeah, it's kind of what it enables you to do when you have that Zorak in the team's face so much, just means that these other Mons can do what they want to do, and you can't really deal with that Miraidon when it's diving in, dropping that damage, and dropping the meteors. Like I'm 100% with you, Gatlu. I think it's really strong. I must say though, I think Todoroki did a really good job over on the side of Greece. They were really trying to kite around and pick up the Mons that they knew were a problem, but it just felt like they weren't able to drop that level of damage that they needed to. Because the thing is, you may weaken a Mon like a Zorak or a Miraidon, but if you have a Comfey, they can just pop onto it and heal it back up again. You're not going to do enough damage, and it makes it really, really difficult for Greece to be able to pull out of that one.
Something like important about like if you build team composition is also how do you build the team composition. As you can see, Team France was just winning the entire game,
Mm.
although Team Greece was fighting back, getting the shutdown on the Zoroark. The team composition that they built maybe wasn't the best against the picks that they got, because you can argue about it, right? The Glacial Icicle Spear did do a lot of damage, but maybe something bursty like Icy Wind could be potentially better. Maybe we could pick an Armor Rouge Station
Mm.
again. We always wanna keep in mind the team building aspect. Because if you play Blastoise top lane side and you're playing from behind, it's not that great. Their team
Yeah.
composition was great overall, but their team composition needs to win the early game against a composition that kind of loses the early game because of the bot lane side, right? The Blastoise essentially didn't get any secure on bot lane. So always keep in mind, do you want to play for early game, mid game, or late game side? And this composition from Team Greece was definitely um, manage early game and then just be even in the game, and then you can probably win the game. While Team Right side was just aggressive over the place.
That's it. And I
Like
feel like
huge damage numbers as well, right? 158k, 113k. But shout outs to the Blizzy as well. Kopiani hitting 127k. Pretty
Yeah, they
solid.
were really keeping their team in that one. But this is it. It's France, isn't it? They're just the aggression, as we mentioned. They win the early game, they win the mid game, they win the late game. I mean, there were times where we saw that Zorak was in a little bit because of the confidence that you have on that mon when you have a comfy with you. But it didn't really matter because France were just so dominant straight away that there wasn't a stage in that game that Greece managed to win and sort of come back from. So it was difficult for them. But as we head into the game two situations, will we see some changes with these bans? They know what they're going up against. Do they want to let loose a comfy Zorak again?
Yeah, there might be a target ban again for like double support. I don't really feel like it kind of worked. Team Greece kind of felt good about the game throughout the game because they got comeback. But throughout the entire game, if you analyze it, they just played from behind. So if
Mm.
they go for the same strategy, it might be the wrong strategy. They did manage, like they did ban the Blaziken this time around and the Hooper. I guess they didn't want to give Team France the Blaziken. But I feel like the bans aren't really in their favor. How the first game looked. Most of the teams will pivot into like a Zoroark ban because they don't want to play against it. But maybe they have an idea how to play against the Zoroark because the Zoroark did manage to um, die a lot in this game.
Yeah, and I feel like, we've mentioned it many a times. They finally lock in the Zash and Todoroki grabbing that straight away. So yes, we're seeing some changes for Greece. I like this. I think that's needed. We do see that Eldegoss getting locked in by France, so they do have that support that's still very strong in the meta at the moment. And they lock in the Mew as well. Again, another attacker that does so well at supporting its team.
Yeah, Mew is a very flexible attacker right now. You can play it with Xpecia, you can play it without the Xpecia. Greece is just looking for a very aggressive team composition or like very aggressive draft. Showing the Oshifu already in the draft. Zacian, Oshifu, and Slowbro. Oshifu and Slowbro is kind of interesting because both of them have a lock-on ability. There might be a Water Bear in the future again. Water Bear got a recent change, so a lot of people are not really pivoting into Water Bear anymore. But I think it's still a fun character. But because of the cooldown reduction, it kind of feels strange to play. And Team France looking for playing the Garchomp plus the Trevenant.
Interesting. I wasn't expecting a Garchomp coming out, but I'm excited for that one. I feel like it is one of the all rounders that it definitely does that top lane well in regards to if you can leave it in that top lane and let it get fed, it can really work for you. But of course, it is the kind of mon that needs to get to that third stage evolution as soon as possible. So it's going to be really good if Greece can stop that from happening, but it has some pretty good secure in the early game.
Yeah, Team Greece composition looks very scary, very scary, right? From the last one, they have like Miraidon
Mm.
and Zacian now compared to France, which had it last game. They didn't have the Zacian, but they had the Miraidon. Um, Last minute change from Utah, changing to candle, like to the candle. I think that the composition on the right side is very good at stopping the flip, but also punishing the slow bro because they're playing double mage. When you play against double mage as a defender, you will not have the greatest time. You always get poked, and it's gonna be pretty hard for the Blizzy to sustain the slow bro. However, we have the Zacian and the Minadon who are going to back up the slow bro. I think what is interesting about this draft, if I would analyze it in a competitive point of view, I would say that Greece looks stronger overall throughout the team fight, but France
Mm.
has a really controlled composition. So if Greece is just running into them, they will fall. But if they play it smart and not run into them, then France is gonna have a big trouble.
Yeah, I think this is really going to come down to what France can do on that Garchomp. If Greece do a good job of stopping that Garchomp from snowballing this game, I feel like that'll be the decider on how this game goes. Because Garchomp can do a lot, and it can be a mon that it's got good rip. It also does really good with its Unite move into a team fight, that kind of stuff. But if you don't manage to get that thing online early enough and start getting those stacks in that top lane and really start snowballing, you're going to have a bit of a tough situation. And I think Greece have the Mons and they have the team comp right now to capitalize on that situation. So let's see if they're able to do that as we head into this second game.
Something that's always interesting to see is when someone looks for an invade, what strategies do they have with the Urshifu? How are they going to manage to get to level 5 on the Urshifu? Like
Mm.
when I talk about it, the Eldegoss is just walking towards the enemy jungle, saying, "I have some business to do," and now trying to contest the Urshifu. Blizzy is noticing the invade and now going to the red buff. Very good read by the Blizzy. He just managing to get the secure. Oh, when I say it, I cast it, and I got it.
Cheeky, managing to grab that red buff, and of course they already have the slow on the Mon. The Blissey is here to try and provide assistance to the Shifu. They have to back up to their home pad to get that healing, and they're just going to continue putting pressure on with this little glossy fur, while that Gibble in the top lane is having a mighty fight against Zacian, and it takes the Sword Doggo out. So the top lane is actually more beneficial for France right now, and we see that Lampert heading on over to the jungle as well. Look at the amount of time they've managed to waste. Miraidon has had to come and put some pressure onto this Glossifer. They've got the X speed, and I don't think they're going to be able to do enough here. This is really good aggression from France, Gatlu.
Yeah, while the Edgars was keep distracting them, Utah noticed that the invade takes too long and then just heading towards the blue buff. It is very tough if you don't manage to analyze what is the weakness of your team composition. And that the Zacian is losing against the Kacham in the 1v1 is not something you want to see, right? Because
No.
in theory, the Zacian should always be winning against the Kacham. But now that you talked about it, the Kacham is almost level 7. And Zacian without any points and not level 5 is going to be very tough as well.
Yeah, this is it though. That's exactly the point. That Garchomp has managed to do exactly what it wants to do, and now they don't have to worry about that being prevented from getting those Evos. They really have capitalized on it. We've seen two of them coming into this jungle to try and take out the Lampent and this Eldegoss. That's going to be able to get out of there, but this Zacian has not been the matchup that they wanted against that Gabai.
It's very nice to see what Team Greece was doing for the for the um, 8 minutes and 15 seconds, because they saw that they are losing very hard and like something gotta change. So instead of contesting the top lane Garchomp, who already has level 7, he just decided to go to the jungle and kill the Candle, which gave him so much combat spear. And now the game doesn't even like feel that bad anymore after such a horrendous early game.
Yeah, we now have that 7 on the Zacian. They're very close to that 8 mark. They do take down that Shifu, which is a Dark Bear, by the way. But we do have the Charge Beam from the Miraidon, and I like that decision because that thing can be hard to get onto, and it does a fantastic amount of damage with some really good range. And when you're coming up against a Mew and a Candle that has their great range as well, it can work for you. And they seem to want to push onto this pad, but of course, Miraidon and that Doggo is going to be a bit too much for them to handle. They're now going to back it up, and we're going to have a bit of a debate over who wants to go for what objective here.
Yeah, it's kind of strange, right? Normally you don't see a double mage composition being for the top end side. You see more the Aranda. But this time around, the double mage is just trying to protect the top end side, dealing tons of damage, just making sure that they're getting some kills before the regular key is going in. Because if you manage to get some kills, you can protect the regular key. However, it looks like they are not going to protect the regular key, just letting it in. And the Garchomp is also losing the objective against the slow bro.
That is a shame. That's not what you want to see as a Garchomp, but a good lock-in by the Slowbro, meaning that both objectives have gone to the side of Greece, so they're feeling a lot better in this game than previously. They've managed to survive the aggression of France that was that early game, and they're feeling pretty good right now. The levels are decent. That Zacian has finally got that level 9. They've got that big sword unite move they can utilize as well. They've got well, they have 12 points, so there's not enough Eos energy to really capitalize on that. But France are working together to try and push up onto the side of Greece. Garchomp coming into the jungle from behind. They pop their unite move and say goodbye to that Dark Bear. Back to the Pokemon Center for you, but Charge Beam is there. They're going to back up onto the Foot Zone. It's not going to be enough. That Miraidon's going to be taken out. I think Sword Doggo is going to go down as well. The beam coming in from that Mew, and Blissey does have a dream, but it's going to turn into a nightmare very quickly because they're going to go down, and France have capitalized on taking out that T1.
Yeah, something that I'm noticing from this entire game is that Team Greece is a team that is very good at like defending pads and like using their abilities and hitting the enemies, but they're not very good at playing in the macro. While Team France is keep distracting the enemies with one character, the other character is taking the middle swabus, taking the jungle, pushing towards top lane side. It is a very scary thing to do, right? Because if the enemy team knows how to play around vision control and you don't, then they're gonna abuse the vision control on you. So while the Team Greece is just holding the position, they really have to start doing something because they're just playing from behind throughout the entire game. So I'm hoping to see more aggression from Team Greece.
Yeah, it's really difficult when you are getting sort of attacked from both sides, which is what France do so well. So it's difficult for them to capitalize on anything when you know you're going to have Mons coming at you from any side that you look at. We're going to see this Reggie spawning in the bottom lane, and France are here prepared to put up the fight for it. We see Mew popping out that Unite move. We've got some beams coming in, doing a lot of damage there, but Miraidon has that charge beam up. We see that Trevenant hopping into the back line there, causing distraction. The slow beam has to go onto the Trevenant, and that means they're not going to have that to use on these Mons. But we do have a Regirock rip from that Zacian. They've got the rip, and they've got to dive into the back line from that Dark there. I think they're going to be able to lock this one in, but it's actually reset as the Regirock. And of course, we've just seen that Zacian Unite move. They've not been able to capitalize on it. The Blitz assistance does keep Zacian up, but look at this. Yet again, the Garchomp has come down, and they've managed to clean up the entirety of Greece from that bottom lane.
Like, we don't get to see much double mage, right? Double mage compositions are not really popular in the competitive scene. But when the double mage composition is not losing the early game and also winning the early game, it's gonna be so hard for you to protect because the slow boy just keep getting chipped down by the double mage. Like again, like these type of players, both of them love to play mages and they're working really well on it. And it's just very frustrating to see like Team Greece because right now it doesn't really look too good for them because they are just playing from behind and France is just playing aggressive over aggressive. If we manage to get the Garchomp, it would be a very great comeback XP because he's level 14. But it's just like it's very tough because the Urshifu is also level 10 compared to the level 13 candle.
Yeah, and what France does is they put a Mon in front of you that you really want to try and take out, and then they've got somebody else that comes at you from behind. The Garchomp has done that so well in this game, and I think that has been the decider with how this has gone. France play that kind of comp so well, and I feel like it's been difficult for Greece to handle. Look at this yet again. We've got the majority of France just hanging around this T2, and they're having to put so much to defend just to pad Greece. I don't think France are even that realistic at how they want to deal with this. They're just causing distraction, and it means that they're not able to go and grab all the XP that Greece want to get because they feel like they have to defend that T2.
Yeah, they want to defend the T2. The Mew is trying to get the level 13, managing to get the blue buff as well. Urshifu is falling on top lane side at the same time. Team France is looking really aggressive right now. Something that Team Greece wants to do is probably going to get, like, manage to get 1 kill on the Garchomp and then deciding to flip it. Because their flip is not that bad, right? They have Zacian flip, they have Urshifu secure, they have Busy ultimate. While I'm saying that, the Trevenant is getting a massive whatever punish combo, and the mages are just keep chipping it down over and over. And I feel like this is gonna be it for Team Greece.
Yeah, they've taken out the slow bow, so they don't have that slow beam, and it's just the Miraidon left, buddy. That wasn't even spawned in that pit, and we saw the fight coming on out. Look at Eldegoss just keeping that Miraidon away from that Rayquaza whilst the rip came in from Team France, and they have been dominant from the get-go, and they have managed to lock this one in. Of course, we still have 1 minute 35 seconds left, but I feel like the team fight has been France all the way. They do manage to pick up the candle there. We don't see any shields that are getting ripped too quickly. Of course, Garchomp's managed to lock in that T2 up. 422 points for France. I think it's going to be too much of a mountain for Greece to climb right now.
Yeah, while we are saying that, the Botema magic button is coming off. The Garchomp is going for the back cap. The Zacian managed to get the Eldegoss and looking for the score. But something they need right now is not a backup. They need to win the team fight and then make a great push. Like the Urshifu just died as well. They're just getting outnumbered, like out damaged, because there's just such a big like level gap, right? Level 15 Garchomp, level 14 Mew. They also have a shield. Team Greece fought well. It's not over for Team Greece yet. They are in the loser bracket, but Team France just making a standpoint from this game and saying we're gonna win this.
They're really making a statement, and you know, if you are coming into this tournament and you want to defend your crown, that's exactly what you want to do. You want to make a statement in any game that you come into, and France are such a fantastically aggressive team that it's really difficult for you to handle because not only are they going to cause constant chaos for you, they're always invading, they're always putting pressure on you, but also whilst they're doing that, the rest of the team is grabbing every piece of XP on the field, they're grabbing objectives, they are really utilizing every single one of their players to capitalize on anything that's coming up onto that map, and that's really difficult for teams to handle.
I'm seeing the chat trying to make a prediction how much damage that the Mew did. How much damage do you think that the Mew do? I think it did like 110k as well. So I'm excited to
I'm with
see
you.
the damage numbers as well. They just
A
keep
lot
trying
of
to
beams.
predict the damage numbers.
A lot of beams coming in. I'm going to say 98k for the Mew. A lot of beams coming in that I saw. I'm going to say 110k for the Garchomp, just because I saw it doing a lot of ripping a lot of the time. But let's have a look at these damage numbers. France, of course, being really dominant. Again, what we expect to see. But I'm going to say a lot of flamethrower coming out from that Chandelier as well, and that does a great amount of damage.
Yeah, something you want to keep in mind is just when you build a composition, what is the weakness of the composition? What is the strengths? You're good at ripping, you're good at securing, but
Mm,
if you don't play a good early game and disrespect what the enemies could do, because the enemies planned on ahead of time, what can we do? They have a Urshifu, we're gonna invade. The Gacha probably gonna play safe. He didn't play safe this time around. He just managed to kill his Asian. So something you wanna respect. Give is very strong in the early game if you take the fight. So I'm excited to see the damage numbers, but we can see like 11 kills from the Garchomp getting the MVP again, but just like the double match composition. Double match composition is kind of weird, right? Because it has a low success rate in competitive, but when you
mm.
win early games, like this Slowbro just couldn't play the game. Every time he walked up, he gets beamed plus candle move locked. It's just very tough to play against a double mage composition if you don't play a speed star.
Is, and I'm with you. I don't think people realize how strong Gibble really is in those lanes. It's so strong in that early. I mean, it's not really the kind of
Uh,
mon that you should be. Oh, there we go. 115k damage for the Mew. Fantastic. And of course, I said 110k for the Garchomp, 107k. I'm taking that one, Gatlu.
Yeah, good damage numbers overall. Capiani again with the 100k healing. Shoutouts to him, just trying to make his team survive. If you build a meta composition, try to make a game plan when you make the composition because you can't just pick great characters and expect to play well. You need to have a game plan. So this is something you want to keep in mind when you play competitively. But I think we're gonna head to a short break and gonna move on to the next game. Before we do
Yeah.
that, we can also like check out the merchandise from non esports. You can find it in the nons.gg shop. And if you use code UNITE for 10% off, it's gonna be great for you.
Yes, do it. Buy it all. It's amazing. Do it. That jersey is amazing. I'm excited for that to arrive. I feel like with esports jerseys, like it's sometimes rare to have one where like you can wear it every day because of just how extravagant they look. But this one is definitely that kind of jersey. It's subtle. It's awesome. I love it. I'm really happy with it. So I'm excited for that to arrive. But yeah, really awesome merch coming in from for the Unity European Cup. A huge thank you to Nouns. Use Unite for 10% off at the shop.